Welcome to Brooklyn, New York, 20th October, and Mr.
How you doing?
How you doing, Paul? What do we have here in front of you?
I got a few of my bikes in the front of my shop here in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
This is a 1946 Knucklehead that I just had in the Brooklyn Invitational, the show that.
Oh, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So 1946 Knuckle, 4-speed trans. Built the engine all back up from scratch, Lincoln carburetor. All.
So it's real Harley stuff then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a real 46 Knuckle.
Yeah.
Polished the cases, nickel plated the cylinders and the heads.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to get that cleaned up and set up for nickel plating. And then rebuilt everything from the inside out. So it's a nice, sweet running 46 Knuckle.
So this is your personal ride or
No, this is going to go to a customer.
customer?
Yeah, this is
Within US or Japan or?
No, it's a guy in the States.
Okay, stateside.
The tank I made from a set of Fat Bobs, axed Fat Bob tanks that I brought together into one. And the frame is a mix of old and new. It's a hardtailed swing arm frame that I hardtailed the rear section. But these castings are really beautiful to work with sometimes around the neck. These original castings. So I liked using that for this setup. And in the front end is a late model Springer, Softail Springer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool to work with just because it's got the sealed bearings and the functionality is great for a new Springer. But they start off so boxy and big that on this one I narrowed it and shortened it.
All right.
So, I don't know if you can
Harley
see.
will steal your ideas, I think.
So you can see that it's an inch narrower, and I've still got to do the plating on the front legs. It's an inch narrower and 2 inches shorter.
Yeah.
So it gives that big blocky Springer a nice tight look. But it functions great with the shock and all that.
So in the paperwork it says 46 then?
Yeah. So it's registered as a 46.
Yeah. And what is this killer in between?
Oh, this is a
Terminator or something?
Now, this is a 1925 JD that I'm working on.
Wow.
And the chassis, I had actually started this bike some years ago. I got this engine from Billy down in Florida.
All right.
About I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then did the rebuild on the engine. I've still got to set up the carb and finish my magneto mount that I made in the back. And the chassis I had started some time ago, and I've just come back to it to actually finish the bike.
Inspired by an old frame or?
Yeah, it's just, basically I just took the setup that I was going to run with the engine and this late 50s Triumph transmission.
Yeah.
And I just built the frame tight around that setup. So I mounted these the way that I wanted in relation to each other, and then made the frame to suit this driveline. And I did a little dog leg in the seat post area that I had room for a later magneto.
Yeah.
Because I'm running a later model magneto. And in a full chain, primary and final drive. And then also mounted a little alternator up here that I could run just for lights.
Right.
So I've got a secondary sprocket and chain just to run this little alternator for lights.
Are you all self-taught about doing mechanics like this, or have you?
Not entirely self-taught. I mean, of course, I spent a lot of time with Indian Larry, who just shared a wealth of knowledge with me over the years.
All right.
And then, since he's died, of course, I'll do research. If I have a question, I'll maybe ask somebody that knows. But for the most part, it's a lot of trial and error and self-taught.
Trial and error.
Yeah, it really
always works.
That's the way that I prefer it because I don't like asking people questions.
No.
I don't like to open my mouth.
Okay, here comes the question. This
You know.
really great front end, is that the total Cox Industries product?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, I built this. And this is a set of shocks that I had picked up years ago. They're these old road race shocks called Red Wings.
Okay.
And I never put them on a bike. I just had them laying around for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
And and then made this front end around those. And
It's a one-off thing?
yeah, it's just one of my girders, another version of one of my girder front ends that I do. I do a lot of girder front ends.
So like with motorcycles, you like prefer to just do parts or like complete bikes, or you like the challenge of building complete bikes?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the complete bikes. I mean, I'm not so much just a parts guy. Some
Yeah.
things spin off into being parts that I'll market.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't really like the repetition in that as far as the everyday you know, routine. So the complete bikes, you know, offer a new challenge every time. But I still build within a certain style and geometry
Yeah.
that works when you're riding in New York City and in Brooklyn, and a functionality that always works, and styles that, you know, I'm comfortable with, that I like. But each one is, of course, unique and different for the person that it's built for. And something like this that I'm just kind of doing for myself, experimenting and having fun,
Yeah.
it still has to sort of be in the style that I like and that I'm comfortable with. So,
But like Shinya Kimura and I know even Kane are working for some Japanese companies. Have you ever had those thoughts, like to make like a special bike for any of the big guys?
for
you like
like
this-
any of the factories?
Yeah.
No, well, nobody's approached me about it, you know, so I'd have to cross that bridge when I come to it.
You have enough things to do. Okay, the
I got
third.
plenty of things to do.
Yeah, and the third bike.
Oh, this one I built for the S&S 50th anniversary.
Oh
And-
yeah, some years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And they had just recently had launched the new panhead. So since they
The
were
PH.
supplying, you know, the people involved in the 50th anniversary build had to buy an engine
Yeah.
from S&S, and I wanted to do something different. So they set aside specific engine serial number for each builder. And when they asked me if I wanted a panhead, I had them send me all the parts for a panhead with 2 front cylinder heads, because I wanted to do sort of an XR style panhead.
Yeah.
So I had them send me all the components that I could build from scratch, and not just an engine in a box. So they sent me 2 front panheads, and then I had them send them, so they weren't machined for the pushrod tubes,
Yeah.
because I had to machine those angles different on the rear and make so much of it from scratch that I had them send them to me just raw and not even machined. So even like the intake manifold on the
Not
front
even
head-
machined.
No, not
You did
machined
that
for
too?
the pushrod tubes, no.
Oh, okay.
And the intake manifold on the front head, I had to completely move over to a different section of the head, if you look in here.
Yeah.
And then the exhaust manifold for the rear, I had to move to the complete side of the head here. So I made the manifolds all from scratch. You can see on this side, see the exhaust is coming out a different location on the rear head.
But
And-
this the feel of the XR. as
And
you
the
say.
intake, see, look at the intake over here on the front head, if you can pan around, where I had to recreate the fins in this section here, because I had to move it over to the side of the head. And it still shoots directly towards the valve stem,
Yeah.
so the flow and the path still has to be correct, but I just needed it relocated so that I could have them pass each other in the center. So I wanted to do all that from scratch myself, with just a hand mill and just a, you know.
So how did the S&S people react when they saw it finished?
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I always wanted to do engraving with the cam gears in a
Oh,
type
you
of
did the
engraving.
engraving too?
No. So
Oh.
I had Tay Herrera out in California do all this engraving, but I'd wanted to have this done for a long time,
Yeah.
to show all the timing gears inside the timing chest on a panhead. And then he did this beautiful engraving job on that for me, Tay Herrera.
That's sick.
Then another artist that I used, actually it's interesting with the artists that I worked with on this bike, a good friend, June from Japan, Silversmith Finn.
In fact, I've been at his place in Kobe.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Kobe, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been there once.
He made these pushrod collars. He had done stuff for us over the years and made pieces for Larry, of course, you know, years ago.
I only have a sticker, that's it,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah? Well, he did these beautiful handmade push rod
Yeah.
collars, and then even though things look similar, every piece that he makes is hand carved. He doesn't do casting.
No.
So he'll do these 4 identical pieces, but each one is hand carved, one
Yeah.
at a time, you know. And then the other interesting thing is with the paint job. I had met George Sedlak that painted all of Evel Knievel's motorcycles.
All right. Met him once.
Yeah, he's a
Once.
great guy. So he did the paint for me because I wanted to do something that was reflected vintage racing and Americana.
Yeah.
So I talked to him about the paint job, and we did sort of a vintage color scheme with the off-white and the burgundy and the darker blue. So it's kind of cool that he wanted to work with me on that.
Yeah. So if we follow you back in the shop,
Oh, sure.
'cause let's see what we find here, because you have many different things happen here in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So here on the right, what are you doing here?
Yeah, this is the leatherworking area where I do all the leather work.
Yep.
So, use all my tooling, equipment, and tools, my stitchers, my machine that I do chain stitch on belts and bags, that type of thing.
Yeah, I remember you showed me the skull here, which helped you working.
Yeah, a little piece made by Jeff Decker right there.
Oh.
Goes up and down when I'm working.
Made in Utah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But are you like some leather guys who collect old leather tools, or?
Sure, there's always a few things. There's always a few things floating around, interesting stuff. But it's all stuff I use every day,
A
When I'm-
seat for a customer
when I'm
coming up there?
doing the leather work. Yeah, this is just a plain sort of burgundy seat that I'm doing. Because I get things finished and they go out the door. So there's
Yeah.
not always a whole lot to show.
But
Oh,
you have higher numbers about, you do bandanas or...
yeah, I do a lot of bandanas. I just did one in alligator that I sent out for a guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing. This was kind of a neat tool when you were asking about saving old tools.
Yeah.
I was at Daytona at Bike Week some years ago, and maybe like 10 years ago. No, longer, 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Johnny Mack, was working with us. And I was there, and I still had projects to finish at Daytona, right? So I'm trying to do some tooling and finish working on a seat for a guy in the trailer at Bike Week,
Okay.
while we're all set up and out there with the bikes, and then I still had to get a seat done. And I had forgotten to bring my hammer for my tooling.
All right.
So good old Johnny Mack, he walks into the woods right off Main Street in downtown Daytona, finds some woods, and he cuts down a little piece of a tree, of a branch, and he sands it and carves it with his knife to make me a hammer that I could finish my work,
Yeah.
so that I could get the seat to a customer. So
Totally analog.
he made me that from a tree so I could finish my work. So
That's a good story,
I've
Paul.
always kept that.
So when you're not doing bikes or leather, you have another skill which
Well-
I'm not sure all people know about that.
Well, here's the bike working area.
Okay.
All the bike work area. There's some other engines and skateboards over there, if you want to just pan around.
But have you really been a skater, Paul, or are you just collecting the old stuff?
Oh, no. Fuck no. What are you talking about? No, this is still my daily board.
Your daily board, okay.
Yeah. My old Vision Gator. So I bought this new in like, I don't know, 86 or something. So yeah, this is my,
There's a lot of skate kids now in the hard scene.
yeah, that's for sure. They ride stuff like what my daughter rides.
Okay.
Those little popsicle sticks.
Is she interested in any of her father's skills?
Yeah, she comes by and helps out sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's only 9, so she does what she can.
Okay.
But this is the engine building area, and then the bike building area over here.
And how long have you been in this particular shop?
In this space for about 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few different spots around the city. So then there's other projects there on the lifts.
But the paint is made by friends, or this is your paintings?
Oh, some of my old paintings, yeah.
Wow.
That are just too big to find space to put in. So
I have a lot of big buildings in Sweden. I could bring them back.
Yeah? You'll take care of them for me?
Yeah, of course. All right, here comes some real interesting stuff.
Well, then I do some knife making.
Yep.
And I do that over here in this area.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of pieces that I'm working on. Now, this is a chef's set. This is a chef's knife in a Damascus steel, and then this is the paring knife that goes with it. So right now, I'm at the final stages of sanding the handles. And the blade, I've already done the finished grind on the blade. It's been heat treated and tempered.
But you get them ready by some company, or you do that too?
What, the heat treating?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a company up in the Bronx that does my heat treating.
Yeah.
That they give me back documentation of all the work being done properly, and I'm very confident in what they do as far as the heat treating and tempering. And then when it comes back, it's all from my grinding, it all goes smooth again, smooth steel. And I have to use an acid bath to get the pattern up in the Damascus.
Okay.
Because it's forge welded steel. It's folded layer upon layer of different types of steel, like they would do thousands of years ago to create an alloy. They were trying to alloy steel, basically. And so these days, the beauty of it really is the patterning that you get when you dip it in the right acid for the right time and temperature, and you get the patterns that come back up.
Yeah.
Can you get that?
But do people know what they want, or you give them different things to choose from?
Well, out of the hundreds of knives that I've made, usually somebody will see something they like, and they'll maybe refer to that or the other and ask if I would do something along that style. Because I've got shapes and patterns that I've made that I like, that are successful. Because you just make tweaks every now and then, a little higher, a little lower, and you find something that's functional that works. Like this style chef's knife, I've made many of in this shape and size because people like it, and it's very functional and it works, especially for people that have a certain grip style that hold the blade like that. And so as it's turned out, I've done a lot of pieces for chefs and restaurant owners, and with guys that want hunting knives or skinners or fighting knives.
But have you been doing knives parallel all the time while doing bikes and leather work?
Well, for about, I'd say, offering it as a product through my shop for about 8 or 9 years. Mm-hmm. And doing the leather work and the bike building full time, for, whether it was with Larry or since then, for about 25 years. Yeah. But the knife making had always been something I did for myself, or like gifts for friends, or you make something for a buddy or whatever. And then people started to notice that I did that too, so they would ask about it, and it kind of became part of what I offer in my shop.
But you never needed to advertise?
No, I've never advertised.
No.
It's just, if I'm fortunate to have a bike in a magazine, or talk to somebody like yourself or anything like that, that's my advertising. Yeah. And
and your good work.
Well, repeat customers and word of mouth is definitely the biggest part of it. So, same thing with any of it, really. Somebody tells somebody else. And
thanks for the view here, Paul. It's a fantastic place here in good old Brooklyn. I will go and take a look at all the bricks here in Brooklyn. Bye.